I'm not sure I agree that security is a main blocker. I think that you can onboard millions of users on our blockchain without security risk. Blockchain by itself is secure. Then it's about the architecture. Do you need to cram all transactions into one single chain and compete for who's going to be next validated? In our model, you have several chains, maybe thousands of chains linked together. So you don't have to compete for having your transactions. This is a technology that can really scale because you can have multiple blockchains per application. And I don't think there is a lack of security. It's about the different philosophies around the security mechanism.
We are at TOKEN2049, and today I have the pleasure to interview Henrik, the CEO of Chromia. I know that you're an OG. You used to work on the Color protocol, and then you pitched at Dragon Den for a different project. So tell me a bit more about yourself and that transition from the Color coin to Dragon Den to now building your own protocol.
Actually, Dragon Den was before Color coins, before I was into crypto, before crypto existed. So I had another startup doing basically Web 2 ID around freedom of speech on the internet. Don't need to go into details about it. But I was in Dragon's Den and it was edited down to 11 seconds. The only thing they showed was you might get into legal problems. But what they actually said was, this is a great idea, but you might get into legal problems. But it was edited out. But what good with that project was I got to know Alex Misrahi, who is now the CTO, and he introduced me to the Bitcoin in 2012, I think. It took some time for me to read the white paper because I was an economist and I dismissed it by gut feeling. But when I read it, I was completely blown away. So got into the scene in 2013.
Nice. And can you tell me a bit more about Chromia and what you guys see?
Yeah, so we started a company in 2014 on the Color Coins product, trying to do stable coin for a European bank to have euro payments. But then we sort of needed to have performance, so we needed to index the Bitcoin blockchain. So we put it in a database, and then sort of the idea slowly grew. We should use a database and make it into a blockchain, because people often say that blockchains are databases, but they're not really the databases that you're used to. If you look at the normal world, there are databases everywhere, and they're all SQL databases, relational databases, at least the top 4. And there are some NoSQL databases, but 80% are of a particular kind, the SQL databases or relational databases. We take that model, the relational database model, and combine it with blockchain security. So you get something that is exactly what was used to build Web 2, but you can do it for Web 3 in a decentralized way. Like Facebook was built with PHP and MySQL by a single person. It's in the same ease, you can now do something in Web 3. Use Chromia and JavaScript, whatever you want to do, complete applications.
Nice. And while I was prepping for the interview, I read that you wanted to build an L2 on the Color protocol initially, but then you decided to have your own L1. So could you just run me through that whole process of like what stopped you from developing an L2 and decided to have your own blockchain?
I mean, it's such a different architecture to the current blockchains. This is so different. It's more like a cloud computing environment when each application developer can have multiple blockchains just for your application. So it really needs to be a new L1 in a way. But it can also function to be an L2 and be able to connect to other blockchains. But the architecture is so different. With Chromia, you can have thousands of blockchains, and the application developer pays for the application costs. So you don't have gas fees. Users don't have to pay anything. It's up to you to how you want to monetize your app. It's very similar to the way that normal apps or Web 2 apps are being built, but decentralized and blockchain security, voting, etc.
And while we're talking about the architecture, could you tell me a bit more about the validator set and how do you use your validators or how does it work in general, just a bit more technical on that side of the blockchain?
Yeah, so it's basically a proof of stake or the version of proof of stake, delegated proof of stake. So we have providers, but it's not like it's not like a blockchain where you run your gaming rig and connect and validate or run the transactions. This is more like a cloud with professional providers of hardware. So you basically decide how much you need for your application. And I need a fast server, I need several, and you basically decide the volume that you need for your application. So it's quite different to many other blockchains out there. More looking like a cloud environment. But you can have storage, depends on do you need to store enormous amounts of data? You can do that on Chromia. You can do streaming of video files. You can store graphic assets, things like that. In that way, it could be also as a layer 2. You can store things on Chromia, but have NFTs on other blockchains and things like that. So we want to complement as layer 2, but you can also build complete applications as layer 1.
Yeah, you keep referring to this like interoperability component, to how you can collaborate with other blockchains, but also you can have multiple blockchains within the Chromia ecosystem. Could you tell me a bit more about how you achieve that? Because everyone is talking about interoperability now, and it's such a trendy topic. And we all believe that we need some kind of connection between all the existing blockchains to onboard a billion users. That's the goal of all crypto founders. So could you tell me a bit more about it? And obviously the security risks associated with it, because that's one of the main blockers.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree that security is a main blocker. I think that you can onboard millions of users on our blockchain without security risk. So blockchain by itself is secure. Then it's about the architecture. Like, do you need to cram all transactions into one single chain and compete for who's going to be next validator? In our model, you have several chains, like maybe thousands of chains linked together. So you don't have to compete for having your transactions on a global chain. Or normally, like it will eventually get there, but they're linked together, but you don't have to compete in the same way. So we are being evaluated by the European Union's blockchain laboratory, basically competition between projects and companies. And they checked on the scalability aspect that this is a technology that can really scale, because you can have multiple blockchains per application. And I don't think there is a lack of security. It's about the different philosophies around security mechanisms. You want something that is validated by 10,000 unknowns, or you don't know who they are. Is it like one power behind all the validators, like the Bitcoin model, or do you use economical incentives and delegated proof of stakes? So there are different philosophies on the security. I don't know if that was the answer to the question, but yeah, interoperability. But yeah, I mean, I think that our model is that we want to play well with other blockchains, because, first, that we are new on the market, and a lot of developers and products are on other blockchains, and it's probably hard to get people to switch. But if we can complement the existing solutions with new features, I think we can sort of spread the news about Chromia and get people to try it out. So that's one of our strategies, that we want to offer things for example, among NFTs, that you can have metadata, storage, etc. on Chromia, but use your actual tokens on other blockchains. So we're building bridges to other blockchains, basically.
Yeah, the reason that I asked about the security is because my understanding of it is that whenever we introduce bridging, we add an extra of complexity and one more point of connection that could be compromised.
Yeah, but bridges are problematic, of course, in security aspects. So,
that's why I was like, and then could you do you guys use bridging to link with other blockchains, or how does it work?
Yeah, right now we have bridges to Ethereum, the Binance Smart Chain. But we are expanding. I mean, we are just releasing the mainnet now, but we are expanding bridges, work with other blockchains as well going forward.
Nice.
It kind of works with EVM now, so there's a lot of bridges that we can add. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you help me understand where exactly Chromia fits? Because I don't think that you necessarily compete directly with other blockchains. You kind of compete with data providers, obviously blockchains as well. But because it sounds like you're quite unique, I'm struggling to position you within like the entire blockchain ecosystem. So could you just help me understand where exactly you fit within the entire puzzle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, in a way, we are competing with other blockchains because it's not only about storing data. It's also, we have a smart contract language. You can do the whole logic. Before the interview, we started to talk about the game, My Neighbor Alice, for example. It's on Chromia, and it's the complete logic of the whole game is on chain. It doesn't have a server. It cannot be shut down. It's completely decentralized. Everything that happens, if you plant a seed, if you do a fishing game, whatever, the outcome is determined on the blockchain. Governance on the blockchain. So very ambitious project. It's something you can do on Chromia. So I think that might be one thing that is really good for Chromia. Really ambitious, decentralized projects where you want to have something that is really complex. And then you probably would, in the normal world, you would probably use a database to have that storage and filtering and indexing and querying and ad hoc querying and so on. That's very difficult to do just with a normal blockchain. Then you need to have external services that might not be decentralized and so on. Chromia can do it directly. So complex applications. The second is we have no gas fees and it's a very easy user onboarding. There is a project Fanseal that are now having a fan engagement platform for some Bundesliga fans right now in Stuttgart. Other clubs are coming. So they have like complete normies, football fans, beer drinking, screaming, working class guys that never probably use crypto. They're using crypto without knowing about it. They are on Chromia, trading like player cards, engaging with sponsors, like engaging with a club that they love, getting beer coupons. I mean, isn't that a good business model? Like provide free beer to football fans. But anyway, so that is really for normies. No gas fees, easy onboarding, and scalability.
Yeah, you mentioned the game My Neighbor Alice. So I was wondering how many transactions per second do you support? Because if you have everything on the blockchain and the number of users significantly increase to whatever, let's say 10, 15 million, do you think that might be a problem? Because this is like obviously a blocker for some games to have everything on chain, all transactions on chain. How do you solve that problem?
Yeah, if you think that everything needs to be on one blockchain, then 10 to 15 million transactions can be problematic. But architecture is different. So one game can have multiple blockchains. So once you start to get up into the millions of players, maybe you can structure it anyway. So I'll have one blockchain for Singapore and I'll have one blockchain for Malaysia, or two for Singapore, depending on, you can divide it and then they're linked together. So you can really scale up using partly on architecture level. But it's also that a lot of the technology itself is performant very much. It's a very efficient way to store and retrieve information.
Can you tell me about your token? And I know that you launched the MVP of your main chain last month. So explain that to me, please.
Yeah, so the token's been out as an ERC20 token for many years now. But now we have a bridge to a native token. And the token is used to to run the whole Chromia system. So as an application developer or application owner, you would like to rent some blockchains for your app, and then you pay with CHR. You pay for basically, I need large amount of storage, or I need a large amount of computing power, or I need some extra resources, then you pay with CHR. So it's part of the ecosystem going around to stakers and node providers, used as a payment mechanism. That's the core. It can also be used between applications as a payment mechanism if you want to have as a currency. It's not enforced. You don't need to use CHR for your application. Just pay for the resources that you consume.
And is that the only way the users can pay for the block space? Could they use, let's say, USDC or any other token? The reason I'm asking is because I want to understand, why did you launch your own token? Because I feel there's a tendency of a lot of blockchains to launch their own token rather than use existing tokens. So could you explain to me a little bit further on like the thought process behind it?
But it basically is needed with one token to power the system. If there's anyone that needs a core token, it is a layer one. I would say that really it goes around everywhere to provide incentives for staking and etc. And using it as a currency and as also part of like staking the whole project. I think it's definitely needed with our own token. That's always the way it was designed. So yeah.
Nice. And you also launch a new coding language, which is Real. I don't know whether I pronounced it right, but it's spelled RELL.
Yeah.
So could you tell me a bit more about it and what are the benefits to it over, let's say, Solidity or Rust?
Yeah. I mean, we can start with like Solidity and Rust. People ask like, oh, why do everyone knows Solidity and why do you need a new programming language? But let's do a fact check. There is a site called Stack Overflow that goes out to 20 million developers that are users. So a lot of developers use it. They do a yearly programming survey, and I checked this year. It goes out to 50,000 developers. And among professional developers, the number one language is JavaScript. Everyone knows that. The number 37th language is Solidity. 1% of developers knows that. Rust, I think, is on something around place 17. Don't remember percentages, maybe 10 or something if I'm guessing. The language SQL is the number 2 language, comes after JavaScript, before Python, before Java, before C++, etc. So SQL has 54% of all professional developers. So it's a factor 54 times Solidity. 54x. Investors knows that, right? What it means. And that's the real world. SQL is the language of relational databases. The rel is like the start of relational. So SQL is an old, ugly language, not intended for blockchain programming. It's not secure, but it's still used as, for some reason, it's the only language that used to interact with relational databases. So we needed to make a new language that is secure, statically typing and things like that, and work with blockchain features. So that's why we needed to make REL. It has a lot of features that are not available in Solidity or like plain Rust. Like say you want to do a DeFi app and you want to find out a list of bids. And with one line of REL, you can say, give me the prices sorted by first price and then volume and order them. So you can pick up the 10 best prices and the volumes, things like that, or resolve the battles between all the troops that I have, 10,000 troops. Maybe that can be one operation. Find out who are leading on the scoreboard, the top 10 players that have not already won our airdrop before and that are not blacklisted, and so things like that, like sorting and indexing, querying, all that stuff is basically not used by normal programming languages. You used to have SQL. It's now built into RHEL, but RHEL also is like a normal, looks a little bit like JavaScript or Kotlin or something like that. So it's like a normal programming language, but with blockchain features and very powerful database features.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. And my final question is like, what's on the roadmap for you and when are you launching mainnet? Obviously, it will be probably challenging for you to give me definitive dates, but are you planning to do it in Q2 or Q1 next year? What's the roadmap?
We have launched MVP mainnet this summer, and I can't really announce. I know exactly the date, but so can at least say that. I know exactly the date, but it's coming soon. Okay, so right.
And could you give us the quarter? Would it be like first, second, third, or second part of the year?
It would be this quarter, yeah.
Okay, okay. So you're waiting for in like Q4 probably this year?
Now you're like
narrowing it down. Okay,
right?
Cool. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.